Welcome to Unscripted Counselors with Chris and Kelly. Hi, I'm Chris from Carnelian Bella Counselling, and we've got Kelly here from
Walking Together. Name
Yes.
change soon to come. That's in the process, still happening, taking forever and a day.
As it does.
Rebranding, re-logos, new colours, the whole lot. And I'm watching our little caption thing down the bottom. And
Yes, because that's new. We
need
got
not
that
to do
sorted.
that.
We're so excited.
But it is like Siri, talk to text, where you might have to read between the lines a little bit to understand what it's saying, because I don't think it understands our Australian accent very well.
Good point. I just got to stop looking at it.
Just ignore it. I wonder if we can move it to the side. So, oh, look, we can. I can move it to the side so we don't even know that it's there.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yes. That was a win for today. It only took us, half an hour to work out how to do that?
Yeah.
Because we're a little bit IT challenged at the best of times.
Yes.
But we did it.
Sometimes. Yes, very much so. So obviously want to cover a couple of housekeeping things. So obviously we'd love to encourage our listeners to get involved and touch base with us. So if you have questions or we've talked about something or you'd like us to talk about something, please feel free to email us at unscriptedcounselors@outlook.com.
Yes.
Because we'd love for some interaction from you guys. And once we've covered a few topics and that sort of thing, we are looking at getting a guest speaker on to talk about some things that we may not know a lot about because it's not our area.
Sounds like a good plan to me. So if anyone's got any suggestions, then yeah, let us know.
Yeah, because obviously we want to cater to our listeners as well. So we don't know what you want to hear unless you let us know.
That's it.
But following on from last week, we had a couple of technical issues where we were looking at the clock and Kelly's like, oh, we've been here for over half an hour, but we'd only been recording the show for like 15 odd minutes. But we'd been, because we do a bit of a
catch up and a chat beforehand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you'd counted from when we first logged in.
I did. It was a long day. I'd been at work all day, seeing clients all day, was absolutely exhausted, could tell by my voice, could tell by my level of energy that was in the room with us that evening.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I looked at the clock and I went, oh, countdown timer says, nearly an hour or whatever it was. And it wasn't. It was like 20, 25 minutes. So my fault. Apologies, everyone. We sort of probably rushed that towards the end. We have learnt that lesson now. So It's all good.
So just thought we'd do a quick apology and that sort of thing because it was a great topic and that sort of thing. So what we're going to do is we're kind of going to continue on from where we're going because we were talking about step parents and that sort of thing, which then also touched onto boundaries. So let's talk about boundaries today, Kelly.
Boundaries. I love boundaries.
You've got a book you're writing, don't you?
I do. I'm writing a workbook. It's come to a standstill because I've sort of refocused on other things. And every time I look at it, I get very excited with where it's going. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be, because I do a lot of boundary work in my room with a lot of my clients. We all talk about boundaries and I've noticed it came up a lot. So I just sort of went, you know what? I'm going to do a boundary book. So it will be an explanation of what boundaries are. It will go through examples, and then it's also going to step you right through, and it's going to have like exercises so it's going to be interactive. So you'll actually be able to sit down and work out how to do it, what to do, So yeah, so it'll be good. I just need to finish it. It's on the list.
I'm excited because I'll probably be one of the first people to purchase it because I'll probably totally use it.
Well, you've seen what I've done. I have sent that to you.
Yes. And, I'm excited. I want to see it done though. I'm excited for you.
I know. I have actually given it to a couple of my clients as is. And it's been beneficial for what the feedback is for what it is. I just need to finish it, and Yeah.
minute tweaks sort of thing.
Yeah, and maybe about I think I'm at about 17 pages.
Mhm.
When I started, the plan was 5. It's about halfway through, and I'm at about 15 or 17.
Mhm.
So I'm guessing there's probably another 10, maybe 12 pages in it. But yeah, as I said, interactive. It's going to go through types of boundaries, little explanations of them. Plus, it also ties in with the attachment work, which is our connections with people and how that relates from our childhood.
Well,
so I tie it all in.
exactly, because at the end of the day, when you think about your personal boundaries, it's working within your comfort levels
Yeah,
of your interactions with other people, which
yeah,
goes hand in hand with attachment.
it does. And when we have, so attachment, for those who don't know, is the best way to describe it is how we connect and communicate with other people. So we have this lovely thing called an inner working model, which is like your narrative of life. So if things happened to you when you were younger and they happened a couple of times, or even just once if it was a big enough thing, then you would carry that through into adulthood, and that sort of paves the way for the way you interact with other people or the way that they interact with you and then your reaction. So there are 3 main types. We'll go over this in another episode, but just in a nutshell today, there's 3 main types. You've got your insecure, which is broken down into 2, which is avoidant or anxious, and then you've got your secure attachment. So if you fall into the bracket of an insecure person, in the sense of, now this is not a negative, they can be changed, just going to put that out there. If you do fall into the bracket of an insecure attachment, it just means that people, the way they react to you, your inner working model is on high alert than what it is if you're secure.
Exactly.
So we just train that and we work with that. So if you are in the insecure bracket, your boundaries will be a little bit more either very rigid or completely non-existent.
Yep.
Or the easy pushed over. So, everyone knows those people that will just hammer you. Like, you sit there and you're like, I don't want to do this. And they'll come at you and they'll push and push and push until you give in. So, yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah. Because that's exactly it. That boundaries is hand in hand with attachment in that way, but the boundary is you saying, this doesn't make me comfortable.
Yes.
This does make me comfortable. And
Yes.
it's understanding that within ourselves, and then obviously effectively communicating that with the people around us.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. And being confident enough to do that.
oh yeah, it takes a lot of courage and strength to turn around to someone you care about and say, what you're doing doesn't make me comfortable.
Oh my God, so much.
Yes.
So much. That is so scary to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Boundaries are hard work. And I think I sort of get the sense that's why a lot of people don't follow through with their boundaries, because they are such hard work. Yeah, boundaries
and a lot of it, like when we're children, we're taught to bend and mold to make other people more comfortable and that sort of thing. Like, for an example, is even like school uniforms to have that equalization and that sort of thing. So it's no wonder that people can struggle so massively with setting boundaries, because it's like say you're someone that doesn't like physical touch or not a hugger, and you're made as a child to hug your grandparent even though it makes you uncomfortable because you've been told it's rude not to.
That's where people pleasing is born. That's the fawn of our flight fight responses, the fawning. Yes, absolutely. I'm not a hugger unless I know you, but I have people come up and they're like, oh, give me a hug. And I'm like, okay. Sometimes I'll do it and other times I won't.
My close and dearest, I hug. I used to be a real hugger, but I've found I'm reading people more, especially since becoming a counselor. a few years back that I'm reading people more and I'm seeing, okay, they don't want the hug, so I'm going to give them the space.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference as well, because my girls, they're huggers. They'll hug anyone and everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Yes. I remember my girls aren't. So
mhm.
both of my girls are neurodivergent. So one of them, well, actually both of them are not huggers, one more so than the other.
Mhm.
And to then be told by somebody that I knew that, hang on a minute, but my cousin's, you know, or my niece or nephew is autistic and they hug people. So, and that was like, well, just because they do it doesn't mean that my autistic child likes to hug
Yeah.
people. That's a boundary right there, is like, okay, I need to advocate for my child, which is a boundary that I'd set in, but the person made that very uncomfortable. And then, you know, oh, well, just because my XYZ does, why doesn't yours? And I'm like, whoa, wait up.
That also comes under stereotyping.
Oh, yes. Yes. But if we're going into stereotypes, autistic people don't normally like to touch.
Yes.
Whereas,
don't normally.
How did that got flipped? Because
but then that autistic person may also be masking because they've learned that that's what makes other people comfortable.
Absolutely. Or they just may be super comfortable with their family and it's okay because
Exactly.
that's what happens. But yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what's on now? You've got the paper in front of you.
I do. I've written it down. I was organized.
Oh my God. It was a blood moon the other day.
It was. I watched it. It was beautiful. Okay, so basically there's so much to cover. It's like, where do you start? So setting and communicating boundaries. So we've all got them and they look different to each and every single person. Yes. Like there is no one size fits all. There's no box you can just put someone in, which is what we were just talking about. And then also taking into consideration people that don't have a high EQ. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that are...
EQ means?
Oh, EQ means, sorry. I say EQ at home and it's like my partner knows what I'm talking about, so I just assume everyone
does. No, not everyone does.
EQ is emotional intelligence, rather like IQ, which is your book smart sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of look at it anyway.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. Usually the higher the IQ, the lower the EQ.
That's usually.
Well, when you think of an example, everyone will...
Sheldon
Cooper.
Sheldon.
Yeah. Sheldon Cooper, Big Bang Theory. He has this huge IQ and he's got no EQ. However, he's also willing to learn and his EQ does raise throughout the series.
Yes.
So I highly believe EQ can be taught.
Absolutely.
Just as much as IQ. But the person has to be willing to learn.
Yes.
Just like with anything, you got to be willing. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what I kind of figured we'd go to is covering the different areas. So obviously there's physical contact, there's verbal, and there's personal space. Like they're your main core areas of comfort within a person.
Yes. And do you think too, this is something that came up with a client yesterday, we were talking about personal space in a very generalized context. And it came to me that I think our personal space bubbles have increased since COVID, since the pandemic, because we are so used to having now that
1.5 meter spacing.
Yep. Yes, that's social distancing. So we're still doing it. It's like it's been programmed into us now to do that. I mean, mine was always quite large anyway, but to do that extra 1.5, we need to come back in. People need to reconnect because we had disconnected so much. So we actually need to come back in and reconnect. So that's going to have to be a big shift gradually to get back to where we were.
However, with that, like with you mentioning that COVID has helped people learn how to communicate
Yep.
their personal space boundaries
Yes.
better.
Yes.
Because I have a friend who's gone through a treatment where she's immunocompromised. So it means she doesn't have an immune system.
Yep.
So even once masks were, you don't have to wear masks anymore, she was wearing a mask.
Yep.
Wherever she went.
Yep.
And it was her learning that she doesn't have to apologize or
Ooh, that was a big
explain
one.
herself
Yeah.
or any of that sort of thing. It was just she was doing what was best for her. And it was a struggle in the beginning.
I bet.
It's been really beautiful to watch her grow actually through that scenario. And when someone shows even the slight sign of a cough or a sniffle or something, she takes that step away from that person and puts her mask on. Because if she gets sick, she could end up in the hospital.
Yeah.
And something that she's got, I appreciate you so much, because it's like if I'm feeling slightly off and we've got plans to go out, I'll go, look, I've got this sniffle. I'm pretty sure it's just my allergies, but I'm going to leave it up to you if we still do this or not. I always left the ball in her court, and she's like, I love that you do that, because it's giving her power in a situation where she doesn't feel like she's got any.
Yes, that's so important.
So personal space is such a huge thing, and you never know what people are actually going through.
Absolutely. But the thing that I noticed when you were sharing that was that she's not being apologetic or explaining herself.
She was to begin with.
But she's not now. So, and that is one of the big things with boundaries is we can say no and not have to give a reason.
Exactly.
We do not need to defend our position. We do not need to explain our reasoning. We can simply say no, and that's it, and leave it. So many people are uncomfortable with doing that, though, with the fear that they're going to upset the other person that they're talking to. But it's a really important thing to understand and to practice is I'm just not up to it.
Yeah.
Or, maybe we can do this another day because I'm just not up to it, instead of feeling forced into doing something that you don't want to do. You don't have to explain it.
Yep. And it's like my parenting style is, when I say no to my children, I do tell them why I've said no. But that's more of an education base, so they don't feel like I'm saying no to spite them as well, and helping educate them on where the boundary is.
That's good, because so many times, my generation being Gen X, you're a lot younger than me, it was no because I said so.
Exactly. I've caught myself actually saying that, because I got told that.
Yeah. No, because I said so. I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. No, because I said so.
Yeah, because it can be as simple, I've said no in the beginning and I've given them a reason and they've gone, but why? And I'm going, because I've said so. It's like, I've given you a reason and that sort of thing. What more do you want from me?
But that also then comes, that's a double-edged sword, though, because it also comes back to, here we are saying you don't need to explain to anybody why you're saying no.
Exactly.
And now we're going, oh, hang on a minute, we should be telling our kids why we're saying no.
But
it's a hard one, right? How do you balance
it is.
that
I
out?
think it comes down to who you're dealing with. Because I will give my partner a reason for why I've made a decision, so that we are on the same page and we're communicating effectively. However, I'm not going to give that same explanation to you, essentially, when you think about it. You're my friend, you're my colleague. I'm going to give my justifications in that. But when I do that with my partner, I'm also reassuring myself that I've made it for the right reasons as well.
Plus, it makes them feel more understood and they can understand where you're coming from.
Exactly. So that's where I'm going. It's more situational. It's like, yes, I do that with my child, but I'm not going to do that with your child.
Yeah.
No, it's my house. It's my rules.
Yep.
It's just no.
Yep.
We don't do that in this house.
That's right. And they
should.
Should.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, didn't.
Should's a swear word.
Yes. I hate being told what I should do. I usually rebel when someone tells me I should do something, but that's a me thing. But yes, that comes back down to obviously setting boundaries, and then obviously having different, that's where flexible boundaries come in, where your boundaries can be different person to person.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And you
So,
will notice you
yeah.
will do that anyway once you start
Mm.
working more with your boundaries and once you start noticing who pushes what boundaries. You will
Exactly.
notice on some things you are quite comfortable to do, like going back to the hugging example.
Mhm.
You might be very comfortable, as we've both said, we're not huggy people unless we know the person. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, we're flexible in our hug boundaries depending on who you are.
Yes,
So
I
if
had a
you're getting,
therapist who would insist on hugging me before I left.
oh no,
I didn't enjoy that.
no,
No.
that's not comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you express that at all?
No,
Or did you?
no. I tried rebooking, but I got put on a waiting list because I was at that point in my life where I would only go when I felt I needed to address something. So because I was a once in a blue moon type client, I got put on a waiting list, unfortunately. And I found someone better who fits with me better anyway. So, and that's not a bad thing. That worked. I think that worked out better for both her and I anyway.
Absolutely.
But anyway,
Absolutely.
back to this, what we were talking about with boundaries, because well, that does cover boundaries as well.
We haven't gone off it. We just sort of
We
went off the
haven't.
track of what's on your list. That's all.
Exactly. I'm not following.
No, we're just doing what we do and just going wherever it takes us. And then it's all right. We'll circle back. Always
That's
circle
it.
back.
So what I wanted to touch on also is the categories that certain boundaries can fit into, because as much as boundaries are different for each and every single person, all boundaries that we have usually fit in to one of these 6 boundaries,
Yes.
which is your emotional,
Mm-hmm.
your physical,
Mm-hmm.
sexual,
Mm-hmm.
workplace,
Mm-hmm.
material,
Mm-hmm.
and time.
Yep.
Time, I know I have an issue with time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, time, I mean, it's valuing your time. And I think that's where, like, when we had conversations not long after we met, talking about setting our price as counselors and putting a value on that time, and we both really struggled
Yes.
with committing to a number.
Oh, but that's a whole different thing to unpack there with that
Yeah,
reasoning.
that's different, but it's also
Yeah.
our time, and with our experience and expertise and everything combined with that, obviously coming with that number, but at the end of the day, our time has value,
Absolutely, it does.
and even outside of a professional sense on knowing what to charge per hour or what you get paid per hour and knowing your value.
Yeah.
It's also, if you have decided to catch up with a friend for coffee and this person's running late, knowing the value of your time, of how long you're willing to wait for them to show up.
Mm. And this is a big thing for a lot of people, is how they perceive not only other people's time, but their own time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like if you're running late, then the nice thing to do, the respectful thing to do, is to let the person know who's waiting. And there's a great thing going around. I've seen it for quite a few years now. Instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry that I'm late, you say, thank you for waiting for me. So you sort of flip it. So it's become more appreciative. But then what happens though when somebody is constantly late? And you've sort of got to look at that and go, why are you late? Is it that there could be a myriad of reasons for why they're late? But one of the reasons to explore would be, how much do you respect yourself to be on time for other people, and respect the other person for their time? So if you know that you are somebody who is always late, it's a good idea to go digging a little bit to find out why that is. Is it just that you just lose track of time and then maybe you need to set alarms, or is it you're avoiding something. You know, we're all great procrastinators when we need to be.
Mhm.
So, and then
Or
you
you're
have to
just
look
someone who easily loses track
Mm.
of time. And that's where alarms can come in.
Yes.
So-
Yes. Or you don't, or you just, it comes down to respect and values. See, values align with boundaries a lot.
Yes.
So, but values as a whole, that's
Well, understanding your
internal.
beliefs and your values and everything helps you understand where your boundaries are at as well, and why you may have a boundary and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like in some research that I've done leading up to this recording, is if you're dealing with someone who is perpetually late, someone who just naturally always runs late, communicate with them ahead of time, going, look, we're meeting at this time, but I have to be gone by this time.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
if you're not here by this time, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go.
Yeah.
And it's communicating that in obviously a gentle way.
Yes.
So that gentle assertiveness of, this is where I'm at. I can meet you for that coffee at 1:00, but I have to go. I have to leave to go and pick up my kids at 2. So if you're not there, I can't hang around.
Yeah. And it comes back to attachment as well. So this is how we were talking at the beginning. So your partner, if or a friend, it mainly shows up within partnerships. It does show up in attachment style, show up in friendships as well. But we'll just go with a partner here. So if you've got a partner who's late and you're getting activated, as in, oh, my partner's always late, your attachment language around that, maybe I don't feel loved. That person doesn't find me important enough to show up here on time. So that comes back around to that. So then being able to then be comfortable with expressing the underlying reason for why that boundary that's being, not kept is upsetting you a bit much. So it comes back to that attachment style of, I need to feel loved, or I want to feel loved, and right now that doesn't show me respect or love. So being able to communicate that's important.
Very much so. But that's a lot of around time, and the boundaries is obviously respecting your time and respecting the time of others. And that's obviously you learning to express, because I like being on time. I am all about being on time. And my partner's very much going, we'll get there when we get there. I'm like, and I get so stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how can I manage to get 4 kids and me ready, but I'm still waiting on you? But I grew up with that as well. My mum, I remember that same argument between my mum and dad growing up. Going, how is it I'm able to get 2 children and me ready, but we're still waiting on you? But then that comes back to some of my narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I used to be late to everything. Not anymore, apart from us. Carrying up a 10-litre bottle of water up my upper stairs. That was a bit tough, but that was all right. But yes, I used to be very, very late. And it was always that story that I was talking about before, that narrative about you don't care about me, was the message that I was receiving. And it was just something that I had to sort of sit back and go, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm always late. And quite often I will be still, I'm one of those people that gets out of the shower and, sits down on my bed and just chills out. And then the next thing you know, I'm looking at the clock and, oh my God, I've got to leave in 5 minutes. And then it's this big rush to leave. But I've just realized that it's not only myself that I'm putting out, and I'm just respecting myself for being late. I'm just respecting the other people for because they have to wait for me instead of to being that little bit on time a bit earlier. So, and I know with my youngest, she is one of those I have to be there on time people as well, to the point where she will actually have a panic attack over it. So I've learned for her to get there, to make sure that we leave early and on time.
Yeah.
Because that's respect for her. That's a boundary she's set and I'm following it.
And that comes around to also your emotional respecting her emotional boundaries, because it's something that makes her emotionally upset.
Yes.
So, and that's where setting emotional things, and it's like an example when doing the research on emotional boundaries is that to help set one, especially with a friend or something like, or a partner or anyone that you may have had a problem with, is usually it's something that you don't usually address until it's been crossed.
Mm,
And usually the best way that I think to deal with this is obviously wait till everyone's calmed down,
yeah.
because you don't want to have this conversation when you're highly volatile emotionally.
Yeah.
So obviously approaching that person and speaking about what happened, owning your own shortcomings within that argument. Okay, I'm sorry that I yelled. I don't like yelling. However, you calling me names makes me uncomfortable.
Mm,
So then, like, they could have called me a name and then I've reacted. Like, this is just an example from the literature that I've read. But that's how it was explained, and I'm like, that actually makes sense,
mm,
because doing it calmly, going, yes, okay, I've done something wrong, I've reacted the wrong way. However, I feel uncomfortable because of this. And it's not so much trying to adjust another person's behavior, because it's not within our right to try and
mm.
adjust another person's behavior.
No,
The only thing that you can control is how you behave.
that's right.
However, you can let the person know your boundary within a certain thing.
Yes. And that's where boundaries are really important, because people are not mind readers.
Exactly.
They're not going to know what your boundaries are unless
Mhm.
you have actually expressed them clearly.
Mhm.
So you can't just be, in the situation that you're talking about, just letting this happen, and then all of a sudden 10 months down the track of this sort of behavior going on where you're feeling this way, and then these conversations that you're having with your partner get quite heated,
Mhm.
which is normal. Everybody has
Mhm.
heated
Oh
conversations
yeah.
at some point. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong, but
It
if it
actually
makes you
shows a healthy relationship
yeah,
because someone's not being walked all over.
yeah. But if it's making somebody uncomfortable and you're not saying it, if it's making you uncomfortable and you're not speaking that, then that falls on you.
That also makes me question how safe that person feels within the relationship.
Yeah. I think that don't forget, some people with insecure attachments are very, very anti-confrontation at any level.
Yes.
Doesn't matter how safe they feel with that person,
Mm.
they will still on some level either want to withdraw or become very anxious about expressing themselves around a boundary.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's where we work with people within their boundaries and help them gain some form of assertiveness. And in some cases, we can get clients to write a letter to their partner explaining how they're feeling, because they can hand that letter to the person and walk away, and it's non-confrontational.
That's right.
Going, I don't want to talk about it, but this is what I'm feeling and this is what's happening within me. I don't feel comfortable to talk to you about it, but I need to let you know what's happening.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's how we can work around those insecurity attachments while still being able to set boundaries to help them grow.
Yeah.
And hopefully come out of that insecure attachment, because you can always grow and evolve out of it.
Absolutely. Just takes a bit of work.
It does.
And help.
Oh, very much so. So obviously communication is huge with setting boundaries. It's basically, you need it for healthy interactions in general in life, and learning to communicate isn't easy.
No.
Because it's like my partner says, these kids need to learn how to communicate more effectively. And I'm like, well, how do we teach them that?
You model it.
Exactly.
You model. We do what we see. So if
Exactly.
you
Monkey
grew up
see,
in a
monkey
house,
do.
if you grew up in a house that wasn't great at communicating, you're most likely going to do the same thing. Unless you are aware of that and then you make the changes yourself. But yes, communicating is tough. And it's not just communicating, it's comprehending what the other person is saying. So make sure you clarify if you don't understand something. Ask questions. Be clear.
It's like my partner will say, this probably isn't the right word to use, and he'll throw a word at me and go, yeah, that's not the right word. What about this or this? And he's like, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And it's because he can go into his head and he's trying to find the right word so he's not misunderstood. And that can take time. And I'm like, just try and find the closest word. But I know he hasn't got the right word. So it's like a get out of jail free card for potentially offending me, because I know he's not using the words that he's actually meaning.
That's it. But the difference is he's expressing that beforehand.
Exactly.
He's not just blurting it out and you're on the defense because, oh my God, why did you say that? He literally said, I know this is not the right word. I do it in my room. I do it with my clients. I'll sit there and I'll be trying to formulate something in my mind and I can't think of the word that I want to say. And I will literally do the same thing. I will be like, this is the wrong word. Help me. Let's work together to find the right word that we're talking about. But this is the word that is coming up for me right now. It might not be the right one. Do you think it's the right word? And you'll get feedback from that.
Exactly. And this is almost like what we got to teach other people to do.
Yeah.
And yeah. And it's because we have these situations, not everyone does that. So we also need to understand that people may not like your boundaries.
That's a
and
hard
they
one, isn't it?
may not like the reasons for your boundaries.
That's a hard one.
It is. However, what you can do that is within your control is you can express them.
Yes.
You can share your boundaries. Then it's up to that person to either respect them or not.
Yes.
And if they don't respect them, you're well within your rights to put some distance between yourself and that person.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if they're not willing to respect your boundaries, are they your people?
That's exactly right.
And that alone is a confrontation within itself or within yourself of this person you really care about obviously doesn't have the same level of respect for you. And that can be very confronting and difficult for some people to deal with.
Yes, it's a hard one, that. That takes a lot of bravery to be able to step into that space and recognize that a boundary that you've been trying to set for quite a while or over a few times and had a conversation about it keeps getting pushed or keeps getting poked or keeps getting prodded and ignored, or just it doesn't even need to be ignored. As I said, it can just be pushed to the point where you notice I'm okay until this point. And then once the person goes to this point, I start and feel really uneasy in my body. I'm having a reaction in my body. I'm starting to notice it. Okay, this is my limit. I don't want to go any further. Yeah.
Exactly. And when we come to boundaries within the workplace is usually it has to get to the point where you're feeling uncomfortable. And that's where you obviously politely and professionally go, look, this is actually making me uncomfortable now.
Yeah.
And then obviously if it continues to be breached, that's what HR for. So your human resources is for in the workplace. And then obviously Fair Work and ombudsmans, and there's a whole lot of organizations out there to help with those sorts of situations where boundaries aren't being respected. And we've covered physical boundaries. Obviously your material boundaries is like lending a book, returning it in the same condition, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
I actually do not lend books out anymore because the amount that don't come back or come back damaged.
Yeah.
I love my books. I love the physical book. So I've just put that boundary in place of I will let my daughter read my books within obviously age appropriateness. But yes, I don't lend to friends anymore
Yeah.
for that very reason, because I've stated my expectation of it will be returned within a timely manner in the same condition I got it in.
Yeah. That's it.
And it hasn't happened. And I think it got trampled on a little too much over the years. So I just got to the point where I don't lend books.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think it's important, something that's just come up for me during our conversation for probably the last 5 minutes, is sometimes with the right people and acknowledging in yourself and giving permission, a boundary can be pushed because that enables personal growth.
Yes. Boundaries can be moved.
Absolutely.
Yes. And like I was saying earlier, situational.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you go to your sexual boundaries, if you're with someone who wants to be a little bit more adventurous than what you are, adventurous.
Promiscuous?
No, adventurous.
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 Yes, adventurous would be a great
word.
Yeah, much better word.
If they want you to be a little bit more adventurous and your first reaction is no, and then you've got time to go away and sit about that and think about it, and then maybe you can sort of go, okay, I will push it to this limit, and then maybe this limit, but it's always up to you for how far you want to push that. But sometimes, even with work, personal experiences and things like that, our boundaries do need to be pushed a little bit for personal growth reasons. Yeah,
and that comes down to outside of your comfort zone, like those. If it's uncomfortable, usually it can lead to a good thing. In certain circumstances, I fully agree with that statement. However,
in its right
boundaries can be there for a reason.
They also
to
can
keep
be
us
too
safe.
rigid. Yes, but they also can be too rigid.
Yes, very much so. Totally agree. Very much agree.
You may not have any wiggle room, and that's not also healthy in the sense of it's stopping you from doing anything, or there's just no way that anything, people are getting, being able to have conversations with you or whatever, if they're way too rigid, if there's no wiggle room. So sometimes it's even best to look at those ones, and you need to go inward and be asking yourself a few questions about why, where did it come from, what purpose is it serving, and things like that. So we can move between our flexible and our pushed overs and our rigid quite easily, but it's finding the balance.
Yes.
For what's comfortable and what feels right for you.
Yes, because I've seen an example, especially around the boundaries being pushed, is like you can have 3 boxes: what your flexible ones, the ones you're okay with, and the hard pass ones. And when you've got hard passes that you let go and go, yeah, okay, I'm comfortable with. I'll put it. Okay, I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide, and then suddenly that box gets really, really full.
Yeah.
And someone will do something really, really tiny that will just make it all explode.
Yeah.
Because your boundary's just been pushed way too far.
So I guess the next part of the conversation is, how do we know when a boundary is appearing? That's a really important thing, because we can sit here and we can talk till the cows come home about the different types, what they are, how to implement them and things like that. But unless we actually know what they are, none of that's going to make any sense.
Exactly.
So to know what a boundary is, the best way that I can describe it is take note. This is where inner body work, noticing what happens to your body when someone is talking to you or doing something. So notice how your chest feels. Notice what your jaw is doing. Notice if you feel like you can't say anything. Notice if your tummy gets into knots. Notice if you feel anxious. They're usually really good signals for, hang on a minute, someone's getting either really close to my boundary or someone is just completely stomping all over it because your body is just screaming at you in reactions, and you need to stop and take note and sit down and think, what is going on for me right now? Why do I feel so anxious about this? Or why am I feeling so angry about this? It's usually a really good signal that that boundary is getting close, and then you need to sort of sit down and think, oh, maybe I should act on this so it doesn't happen again.
Yep, you said exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. So it's being in tune with yourself, in tune with your body, and honoring it, because that's what it's all about too. So boundaries comes under the self-care banner. So self-care is not just about bubble baths or getting your nails done or, you know, sleeping late.
Or
It's
going for a
about,
walk or
that's
whatever
it.
you choose. Yeah.
It is about also setting boundaries, because boundaries are needed to keep ourselves mentally well and physically well. Yeah,
Very much so.
absolutely. Absolutely. So it takes time.
It does. Like we said in the beginning, it takes courage and strength to enforce your boundaries.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it can take a lot of courage and strength within yourself to learn what some of those nitty-gritty ones are, because it means addressing some stuff that you really don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's so many steps through the whole process. And obviously anyone who is struggling with setting boundaries and or want to learn what their boundaries are, that's where people like yourself, Kelly, and I come in, where we can work with people and help them understand themselves that little bit better.
Because I find it's okay to sit down and you can list your big, like the ones that the boundaries that stand out. You know,
a lot
like,
of people can
talk to me with respect, you know, don't touch my things unless I'm asking, and things like that. They're the really obvious ones. But then it's the little ones that pop up. They're the ones that you really need to take notice. And they're the ones that you normally let slide.
Yep.
You know, the big ones you do occasionally, you'll sort of let them just, oh yeah, okay, I'll just deal with that person. It's fine. But yeah, it's honoring yourself. Boundaries are also, and it's also, as you've touched on it earlier, is honoring the other person's boundaries. So it's not with this conversation is not just about what our boundaries are. It's also, I mean, you can, you know, expect people to honor your own until the cows come home. But it goes the other way too. You have to honor the other person's boundaries. If they're expressing, you need to also be respectful enough to honor what theirs are.
It's very much a two-way road.
Absolutely. And make it easy for them to, you know, if you notice in them, their body's shifted, their voices shifted. So pay attention to the people you're talking to, see how they react and check in. Hey, was that okay that I did that? You know,
Exactly.
I think I crossed a line here. Can you just confirm that I've done that? Have I made you feel uncomfortable?
Yep. And I can guarantee you, if you have, that person will be shocked. Because not a lot of people do that check-in.
No.
Short of obviously having mental health behind you, if you've got that training and that sort of thing, it's kind of our job to pick up when someone's uncomfortable and go, okay, what about what we just talked about made you uncomfortable? And that sort of thing. And obviously, I actually don't like the word why. Why are we doing this? Because it opens up to, I don't know. And there is always a part of you that actually knows.
Yeah.
You just don't know how to verbalize it, or you're not sure how the other person may receive it.
Mm.
So it's asking, what about that made me uncomfortable? What about that situation can I change?
Yeah. Where did you feel that then?
Yeah, exactly.
Where did you feel that in your body then?
Your other W's.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel as well?
Yeah.
Who, what, when, where, how?
Yeah. You've missed out the why though.
Yeah, we don't want why. Who, what, when, where, how. We don't want why. We don't use why. I stopped using why with my kids, and I actually got answers other than I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh,
It bothers me so much.
and it's not fair. That's been the current one this past month. Twitchy. It makes me twitchy
I was going to
because
say something, but I forgot what I was going to say.
oh, sorry.
No, it was probably about 2 minutes ago, honestly. You said something, and I went, hang on, I need to jump in here. We said, no, I'll just sit here patiently and I'll let you finish.
Yeah.
Gone.
Well,
Often.
with that said, we've actually nearly hit the 50-minute mark.
Oh, well done to us.
Yes.
Big topic. Boundaries is huge.
Oh, it's huge. And what I found usually leads from boundaries is obviously your attachment styles. And within your area of expertise, Kelly, is consent, but then also consent both inside and outside the bedroom.
Yes.
So what do you reckon next episode we'll tee this up and I'll do a little bit of research between now and then, and we can talk about consent. So I can help with the conversation. It's not just you with all the...
But boundaries will be revisited a lot. This is something that is going to come up quite often.
Communication, boundaries, attachment.
Yeah, you're going to hear that a lot.
Oh, yeah. And that's just life. That is a part of life. And once you understand those fundamental, foundational things, life becomes that tiny bit easier.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and it feels, you know what, it feels really good to set your boundary and stick to it.
Oh, yeah. Like it can be hard, but it's so satisfying. What were you going to say?
When we go and talk, when we want to talk to one of our friends about something that's happened during our day, a good thing to do, and it shows that, how we were talking about honoring the other person's boundary. So if you get home and you've had a really hard at the end of the day and you want to just talk to someone, the good thing to do is to check in with them. Hey, do you have the capacity for me to talk to you about this now?
Yep.
Because people will just come in and just bump, unload, unpack all of their stuff on you. And you may not have the capacity, but you won't often say, I don't have the capacity right now, because you don't want to upset the person even more. So if you've got a lot to say, check in first. Hey, can I unpack this with you? Are you right? Have you got the spoons to talk to me about this? Or have you got time for me to talk to you about this? And then it gives the other person who you're asking, a chance to say, hey, yeah, I do. Or can you give me half an hour?
Yep.
It gives them that time.
What I've done with my friend that I unload to is at the top of my message, I go rant warning, address when able. And I just go, because I need to get it out in that moment. But she's got a disclaimer at the top. She goes, okay, that's a red. I'm not in a space to do that. I know she's seen it. And if she hasn't responded, I know she's not in a space to do it. And she'll come back to me when she can. 99% of the time, I've got it all sorted by then. And I'm like, no, I'm good now. Thank you. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to let it out, and having that person to let it out to. So I do a disclaimer. That's kind of our deal. I don't need a fix. I just need to let it out.
I have a girlfriend who does that to me on text too. her disclaimer is Dear Diary.
That's a good one.
And then I know it's just her giving me a novel of whatever she's struggling with. And I don't even need to respond to her a lot of the time, or I will just give her a little bit of validation about it. I don't need to fix it. If she wants me to help her work through something, she'll say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Can you help me with this? Or have you got time? Because she knows that I talk to people all day. She knows that I'm in that headspace a lot. So she is really, really good at respecting that boundary for me to go, hey, can I talk to you about this that I'm really struggling with, knowing that I have just sat down with people for the majority of my day and had some really hard conversations. Or I can just let her know, you know, I just need 10 minutes to decompress, or, you know, so she's not in a, oh my God, you've read my message and you haven't answered me, which I know a lot of people don't. Messenger, when you see the red symbol and no one answers you, creates a lot of anxiety. A little trick for that, by the way, if that is you and you get anxiety when people read a message, or if you just leave it on red, they don't have to, actually a boundary is they don't have to respond to you at that moment in time. They can come back to it when they want to, but also you can turn your online status off. So you can go in, so mine's turned off. So you actually, unless I'm posting on Facebook or whatever, you actually never know when I'm online, because you can't tell when I'm in Messenger if I'm online. It just gave me a little bit more of a buffer for people. And then it's like, no, I don't need to even open your message right now if I don't want to, because people won't get upset that I'm online and I haven't opened their message. That was just something that I put in place for me personally, because I noticed that this is what happens with a lot of people. Social media has been a blessing and an absolute curse all at the same time. But just check in with your friends, check in with your partners. How's your day been? Do you have time for me to unpack this, or can I talk about it later? It gives the person the other chance then to say no, because people struggle saying no.
Yes.
I
can be so guilty of that too.
Yeah.
I think we all are.
That's right. And even that leads into consent, of course. So
exactly, which we will cover in our next episode, which will be episode 5. That's exciting.
Okay.
So again, like I said in the beginning, if anyone, obviously, if you're still listening at this point, obviously, if you would like us to cover something, or you've got a comment about something we've discussed, or a personal experience, email us at unscriptedcounselors@outlook.com. Obviously, if anything hit too close to home, we encourage you to seek professional help yourself. Kelly and I obviously have open books at this stage. My business is Chris at Carnelian Bella Counselling, website carbella.com.au. And you, Kel?
My email is support@wewalkwithyou.com.au, or Walking Together Psychotherapy and Counselling. I'm located in Perth, out in the hill stakes of Midland, for where my office is, but I do online as well.
Where I do online, so it doesn't affect me where you are.
No.
So just thought I'd quickly put our details in and that sort of thing, because not everyone has the time to go through and search through the bio for those details. But yes, because that was the bit of feedback that I got from one party, is we need to actually share how to contact us.
If you want to. You can always leave a message.
Yes.
And don't forget, you know, counsellors are not great for plugging themselves. It's actually really hard for us to do that. Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, like, share, subscribe. Okay, so we will see you next time with our 5th episode, which is very exciting. Thank you all. Much love.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.